Hey, all my Gemini friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your March 2025 monthly horoscope. This horoscope is based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm referring to Gemini, I'm referring to Gemini rising as the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. If you don't know your rising sign, you'll want to go to any one of the free birth calculators on the internet. You just need your exact time and location of birth to determine that information. This is also applicable to Gemini Sun and Gemini Moon, but the house structure will not be the same. And that is very significant in the month of March. So I encourage you to find out your rising sign. We are going to start eclipse season in March. We are going to see Venus and Mercury retrograde together, and your 10th and 11th houses, the houses of career and your hopes and your dreams, is being lit up. So it's very powerful. And we're going to see Neptune move into Aries, which is your 11th house, for the first time since 1862. And it's going to be in conjunction with Saturn. This is all happening later on, but the month of March is starting to lay the groundwork, the foundation for the experiences that we're co-creating ahead. So let's pull up the chart. Now, when I refer to a day and a time, it is based on the Pacific time zone. So please adjust for your location. Okay, so we see the month starting off. The sun is in Pisces, Saturn is in Pisces, the North Node, Mercury, Neptune. The moon moves very quickly. It's in Aries right now. And we have Venus, who is stationed at 10 degrees, meaning Venus is about to go retrograde on March 2nd. I want a quick plug. Check out that video. I did one with Mercury and Venus together because they are both retrograding again this month. This is very significant, this grouping of planets, because Neptune is going to be bringing up sort of polarizing dynamics. Neptune can be very much the escape artist, the dreamer that wants to hide from quote unquote reality. But it's also the planet that represents the ability to connect to our soul and our soul's intention and our soul's desires. Here, in a conjunction with Mercury and the North Node, it's really compelling us to want to live a more authentic life that is driven by the soul. The life being the everyday activities that your ruling planet Mercury represents. The fact that it's conjunct the North Node and Neptune is making so many thoughts of wanting to live a life that's more authentic. This 10th house, we can see that at the time of this chart that we start, that it's on the Gemini rising. It won't stay there as we move through the month, so be mindful of that. But the 10th house is a house of your public reputation, your career. It's even a status change. Sometimes you'll go from being single to being married, from being childless to being a parent, and things such as that. I also couldn't help but note that we have sort of this weird sort of, it's not officially a kite formation, but you can feel this sort of kite energy that's being created between Uranus's sextile to this group of planets. We've got Pluto sextiling Neptune and Mercury. We've got the trines from Pluto and Uranus to the South Node. Technically, this is not a kite formation, and yet at the same time, all these harmonious aspects, but basically pointing at the South Node from my perspective, as this is the lowest part of the chart, is giving me an opportunity to be aware or to be more willing to be aware of what my old habitual mercurial habits are. And to stretch for them to reach their highest vibration. I hope that made sense. Let's move on to, I'm actually going to move to the third, where we will see Venus is already retrograde and Mercury has entered Aries. Mercury and Venus are doing a very tight dance throughout this retrograde period and during an eclipse season. So this is like I don't even know how to explain how powerful this. When we get to the eclipse on the 13th, it will be the first eclipse we feel on this new nodal axis. It's going to be a full moon in Virgo. And I think that this is important because this is going to bring about fated events. And when I say fated events, it's as if souls have contracted to come together to offer each other choices. The things that we choose are not fated. Those things are demonstrative of our free will. But the events I think are destined on some level. So as Venus leaves or goes retrograde in what is considered her detriment, because she's in the furthest sign from her home, Libra, and she's about to go back into exaltation. I think the review is about self-assertion, about if I'm doing this from a platform of bravery and pioneering and the hero inside of me, or am I asserting myself from anger and frustration and resentment? Do I value myself or do I look outside of myself for value? This ninth house, this Aries energy, right now, Aries is your 11th house. We've seen the chart move. So this is your 11th house of hopes and dreams. This could very much be coming into the forefront. Now, Mercury is going to go direct over this point, and I think that's powerful because Mercury is going to cross over Venus more times than normal when it's in a retrograde, because they're both going back and forth. So we've got the mind, and we've got our gifts, our talents, and our self-worth as represented by Mercury and Venus. And all of this conversation that's happening is going to tee up a huge summit between Saturn and Neptune as they become conjunct later in the year, not that much later this spring. And they sort of task us to look at old stories in history and allow that to be rewritten and recalibrated from Spirit's point of view. This is so incredibly powerful for us all. On the 11th, we will see that Mercury and Venus come into an exact conjunction. Venus is retrograde, Mercury is still moving forward. This to me is just transformational in my thoughts, giving me opportunities. There's a scorpionic energy to this conjunction. And again, their conversation is continuing. Imagine that you're in the kitchen and you're talking to somebody, but they decide to walk into the other room, but you're still talking in the conversation. It's just a little bit louder because you have to stretch your voice. Venus is stretching her voice. We see that Neptune's at 29 degrees in your 10th house of, again, what do you want your career to look like? What do you want moving forward to be more aligned to what is authentic to you? And again, the 10th house and the first house square each other, and yet they offer this fork in the road, because the 10th house gives you an opportunity in the square to demonstrate the individuality and to put it on the stage in some way. The Sun and Saturn will be conjunct on the 12th. Which to me is a very quick transit, but because it's at 22 degrees, I think it's going to be pretty significant that there's going to be a lot of ego conversation, okay? Like how your ego is either being thwarted or you're feeling that you're not really getting your due just. There's that potential. Again, here's this public status. But I think it's also an opportunity to see if what you're wanting in the way of confirmation, validation, affirmation is true and authentic to what you truly want, or is it where you've been rolling, meaning you want to be validated where you are, even if you're not content in where you are. This month feels as if it might bring up some discontent so that it could illuminate what will bring content, bring a sense of feeling life's worth living. Let's go quickly to the eclipse. Or the first eclipse. I'm going to do separate videos for the eclipses in more detail, but I want you to just get a quick idea of where it's happening for you. So we see 23 degrees. Again, the sun is in your 10th house and the moon is in your 5th house. I'm sorry, fourth house. Now, the moon is in a loose conjunction with the south node, and the sun is in a tight conjunction with Saturn. This is going to bring up family history, family obligations, duty, responsibilities. It's even going to bring up how, do you get, you could even say to yourself, Gemini, when is it my turn to feel, to have my emotions recognized? But I think that's part of this retrograde, and part of this eclipse is to claim your space. Claim your quiet time, claim your fun time, claim your ability to be curious and to be creative, and to start to really make space for your hopes and your dreams to come true. A full moon is always where we see an illumination. And if we look at the sun as the leader and the ruler of the zodiac, and it rules Leo. Leo rules fun and entertainment. And literally, the sign of Leo is very much about the self. It's secondary to the first house, maybe on a par with the first house, because the first house is the discovery of self. And by the time we get to the fifth house, we have a sense of ourself and what we're capable of. So this is a very powerful eclipse. It's also in a loose trine to Mars in Cancer, and Cancer is your second house of money, of skills, of your voice. So this could also has to do with the home. So you're going to have some illuminations, and maybe even claim a bit of an Independence Day, because now we see your 12th house being cooperative in Uranus breaking up some, again, old history, or making you aware of an old history. When Saturn and Neptune come together, we are all, whatever house it is in for most people, that's the area of life that they will be tasked to really allow what doesn't work to take its proper place. Some people call that to releasing. I don't really like that term because it feels very difficult for me. So this is going to be a powerful eclipse. We can see there is quite a bit of planetary activity involved here. And I include the North Node and South Node in this because they are emotional karmic points on an eclipse, conjunct an eclipse. Huge. Huge. Okay. Now, Mercury will go retrograde on the 15th, but I'm going to pop over to the 16th. And we see that Mercury and Venus really pretty much stay within 3 to 4 degrees of each other throughout the whole retrograde. And they're going to cross over all these points again. This is just be very mindful of your thoughts. And I want to offer it this way because your thoughts could go into a loop of an old story, but it isn't about trying to change the old story. It's about, is the story still working for me? Is this putting me in the right vibration for alignment? I was in the shower this morning and Spirit said that your words are the bridge between your soul and the manifestation of your soul's desire on the planet. And if we pay attention to our voice, because we're also used to just talking, you can feel the vibration if you put your hand to your throat. That vibration is a ripple effect out into the universe. So here the conversation Mercury's having is, what are my thoughts? And Venus is supporting that because she represents the voice. So they're trying to line up together. Okay, the sun is going to be conjunct Neptune before it moves into Aries. This happens every year at this time. Well, I should say it has for the last 14 or 15 years because Neptune has been in Pisces. I'm sorry, I'm in 3 places at once. To me, this little conjunction is a bit of a sunset, right? And this conjunction gives me an opportunity at 29 degrees to really go into that Leo energy again of, am I co-creating my own dream life? Or am I only focused on the things that aren't working, the deficits, the holes, the what has not happened yet? While Neptune is not quite on the world axis, and the world axis is 0 degrees of Aries. So for this is at your 11th house, 0 degrees of Aries. This is the house of your moving your story forward. This is the house of new invention, of technology, of your hopes and your dreams, of the future, of the collectiveness, consciousness, and the massness of the human experience, okay? And how, in some ways, we all are so diverse. It's also a social house that is where you interact, maybe like on the internet, with people that are like-minded. So as Neptune moves on this point, and Venus and Mercury are moving back and forth over it during this next couple of months, this is a co-creation for you. This is an awareness. And as you say to Spirit, thank you for giving me the experiences in the human dynamic that anchor my trust in that soul's voice in my head. Because as a Gemini, you're going to be weighing a bunch of different sides, looking at it like through the twins' perspective. On the 20th, the sun will officially enter Aries, and then we'll go to the 22nd. And on the 22nd, we see the sun is conjunct Venus. And I really, at this time, while this is when a planet is conjunct the sun, they say that it combusts it, okay? To me, this is a conjunction that makes me aware of, is my ego overshadowing my talents? Is my ego that I'm afraid of whatever outside people dynamics and the judgment of them, the criticism of them? This is this hyper focus of the South Node in Virgo, and Virgo is your fourth house. So there could be, historic dynamics within your Gemini rising life where you have felt either judged, or you felt you had to be responsible, or there was a certain process that had to take place. And now this North Node and this particular conjunction is really illuminating where maybe potentially you're still operating on a story that is expired. And now it's an opportunity, as Venus and the sun are together, to really think, how can I use my ego to evolve into God's opportunities? That's my new acronym. You can either edge God out or evolve through God's opportunities. And that's no promise that they're always fun opportunities. Okay. On the 24th, Mercury retrograde will be conjunct the sun, and we'll be making an aspect to Pluto. And I think that this is rather powerful because Pluto is in Aquarius right now. Aquarius is your ninth house of beliefs, of expansion, of business and commerce. It's also a legal house, meaning it's a fair and just house. It's a house of quote unquote religion. I feel like Pluto in your ninth house sextiling this group of planets, and it's sextiling Venus as well. This is, again, an opportunity to rebirth, to recalibrate, to become aware of the underbelly, and now start to use it as a launching platform to move your story forward, to move your story into a place that feels more authentic to your Piscean 10th house. It's a very, very creative house. On the 27th, we're going to see Venus move back into her exaltation. And I personally don't think Venus is in such detriment anymore in Aries, but again, that's a level of consciousness for the Venus in Aries person. But when there's a level of consciousness, it's, I think, a very powerful position for Venus to be in. Now she's moved back into her exaltation where she feels very comfortable, and she's conjunct Neptune exact. This is at that Leo degree. And we can reduce the 29 down to an 11. We are on the midst of a new moon eclipse, which is going to take place on the 29th in Aries. So this conversation that's going on right now is super dreamy. And in some ways, it's super historic. Venus is very much sort of wanting to review where she has escaped her greatness, where she has been overly compassionate to other people or to other circumstances that were not compassionate to her. And Mercury is joining that conversation. Mercury is a little less emotional about it. Mercury's almost providing the information of the experiences, and Venus and Neptune get to transform those. And this is going to continue on throughout this retrograde. Let's jump to the new moon eclipse. That's on the 29th at 9 degrees of Aries at 3:57 a.m. Pacific. Now, a new moon is always where the sun and the moon come together in the, I'm going to do 3:58 for some reason. Oh, maybe I should, sorry. 3:58 a.m. There we go. I don't know why I must have written it down wrong. I want to offer this because this new moon eclipse is the last eclipse in Aries until we get back on that nodal structure. And we see that Mercury is at 0 degrees of Aries at the time of this eclipse. This is really an opportunity to plant seeds for the future, to be, to declare with intention that you will reinvent your conversation, your self-talk, the possibilities, what possibilities you are capable of. I'm going to learn to speak as Mercury is retrograding. I think that 9th degree is very Sagittarian. It's very expansive. It's very much offering this brave new beginning. And I think that this is further going to be demonstrated as Neptune moves into your 11th house and starts to make this really spiritual connection to the inner core of the self. I think lots of times when we look at the Gemini energy and we see the twins, we see the duality. What I see is possibilities in 2 different ways. And when we start to look at it that way, it becomes so much more fun and so much more of an opportunity to explore. And now if you've explored something in the way of duty and obligation, as the South Node might infer, due to its being in your 4th house, now's an opportunity to start to explore something that's more authentic to where you want to go in the future. Again, I'm going to do separate videos on these eclipses. Eclipses have a 6-month influence. So the things that we intend and that we are aware of at the time of the eclipse, the universe starts to gather the components for that experience. And the more you focus on the outcome that you want, the more powerful the manifestation can be. All right, now we go to the 30th. I'm going to move back to 12 p.m. And this is when Neptune makes the move into Aries. 0 degrees. Neptune is going to go up to 2 degrees of Aries before it retrogrades back into its domicile. And we can see that we've got the North Node retrograde, Venus retrograde, and Mercury retrograde. And it's sequential, 27, 28, 29. 27 represents Gemini energy and in a more masterful way. Like the planet has been through the sign of Pisces. Now it is mastering those last degrees. So what am I thinking about? I'm stretching for the spiritual dynamics of my own reputation, my own desires, my own leadership through my creativity and my connection to spirit, using my talents and nurturing those talents as represented by the Cancerian degree, and trusting my intuitiveness that floats between the Gemini duality. And then the 29th degree of Mercury is that I'm going to keep my thoughts focused on what brings me joy, what brings me fun. And that's part of the service that I give to others. So this, and Saturn's going to catch up here. So there's a lot going on. I'm going to stop my share right now. I think that March is really teeing up an awareness. I think we're going to see dynamics sort of polarize, where some people will be extremely clinging to old structures that aren't really working. And Neptune is going to erode, along with Saturn, old histories that no longer serve, any fears and depressions and limitations or responsibilities that are not born and and fostered through joy and through a sense of fulfillment. So that's really powerful. All right, my Geminis, that's it for March. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. I am live on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m., where we look at the transits for the week ahead, and we do a quick spread by rising sign. And I am live on Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m., where I address your personal questions. So you get to get into the chat and ask something that's important to you. And those that donate through the super chat or through super thanks get to move to the top of the line. All right, everybody, I'll see you in April. Have a lovely eclipse season and a wonderful March. Bye-bye.